Hello everyone, and thank you for watching this instructional video on the IXL Proxy Hours Report tool that you can download for free at mathwithmrward.club to use in your program to report proxy hours from IXL.com, which is one of the online programs that is approved by the Adult Education Department for use as proxy hours for your students. What you see on your screen now is IXL's login screen. And what you're going to do is log into your account just like you normally would to manage your class and view your student activity. Once you log in, you'll be able to see lots of different options that you have, but you need to make sure that you are on the Analytics tab. So if you're at the top of the screen and the green bar there, make sure you're clicked on Analytics. And the next thing you'll want to do is go over to where Students is and drop that menu down and click on Student Quick View. That's going to give you kind of an overall picture of what all of your students are doing. And it's automatically set to the last 30 days, but you can actually change that by dropping that menu down and selecting the custom date range that you want. The way our department works, we always do 1 week at a time. And so I'll select a starting date and an ending date and have them be 1 week apart. And on the calendar here, you'll see that the calendar is actually set up from Monday through Sunday. So it's really easy to find an exact week. Just click on a Monday and click on the following Sunday, and you'll get a nice date range there. I'm going to pick March the 14th through the 20th. That way I get a full week, and I'm going to show you the data for a week's worth of our students. I am going to blur all student names so that our students' privacy is protected, but you'll still be able to see all the other information on the screen, and you'll be able to see their activity, their hours, things like that. So it'll look just like your reports that you see, but you won't see any student names here today. Now that I've selected that week, you'll see it up at the top of the screen, March 14th through March 20th. And when I scroll down, you'll be able to see my student activity. However, this student activity, you'll notice, has 0 questions and 0 minutes. That's because the first person alphabetically didn't use IXL this week. And that may not be the case in your class or in your program, but in this class, that first person didn't use it. In fact, the first several people didn't use it. We have lots of IXL accounts for lots of our students, and sometimes they don't use them every week. And so if we were to run the report just like this, we'd have a lot of zeros right in the middle of our report. It wouldn't look very nice. It'd be a lot of wasted space. So instead of doing that, I'm going to sort, instead of by name, by time. And when I sort by time, you're going to see that the largest time is going to jump to the top, and the second largest time right below that, third largest time right below that. And so now you can see a student who did 9 hours and 19 minutes, and another student who did 8 hours and 35 minutes. And it's going to count down from there. This way, the report that I run is only going to have students who actively use the program, and those that didn't are going to be at the bottom of the list, and I'm just going to leave them off of my report. Also, this organizes my list so that the students with the largest numbers of hours and minutes will be at the top of the list. So if you're doing something like a competition, an incentive to see who can do the most, you easily can see that on every report that you generate. It's actually a really nice feature of IXL. The next thing I'm going to do is highlight all of the students' names and all of the information that goes with them. And the easiest way to do that is to put your cursor just to the left of the circle at the top next to each student's name. So the student at the very top of your list, you'll see what they call an avatar there. Sometimes that'll actually be a little symbol that the student has chosen, maybe a picture or an emoji or something like that. But in this case, this person hasn't chosen one. And so it just shows a green circle with a little outline of a person there. And all you have to do is click just to the left of it, hold your left button down on your mouse, and just drag all the way over to the right and down. And as you drag down, the screen is going to scroll down with you, and you'll see all your students counting down by the number of hours and minutes that they have. Once you get to not the bottom of the list, but where the numbers of minutes and hours stop, so you can see here at the bottom of the list, I have students who have just 1 minute or 2 minutes. I also have some students who have 0 minutes, and these students won't be included on the report. Now, normally I wouldn't go this far down either with students who only have 1 or 2 minutes. That basically means they logged in, looked at the site, maybe for the first time, set up an account, things like that, but they didn't actually participate in the program very much. And so these students wouldn't normally get credit for something that's 1 minute or 2 minutes. The only reason I'm including them on the report today is just so you can see what that looks like if you were to include them on your report, but I don't advise you to do that, and I'll talk more about that at the end of this video. Now, what I'm going to do while I have all of these students highlighted and all of their information highlighted, I'm going to hold down the Control key on my keyboard and hit C at the same time. Control C. That's a quick way to copy something on your keyboard. So Control C. And once you've done that, it's time to open up your report. And the report is just an Excel spreadsheet, really easy to use. In fact, does pretty much everything itself. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So that Excel spreadsheet, when you open it up, looks just like this. This is the IXL Proxy Hours report. And on it, you'll see the student name, the number of questions that they answered, just in case you're interested in how much effort they were putting forth, and then the time and hours as well. Now, the reason the time is in hours is because that's how we report time in adult education. We report it in hours and minutes, but the hours are what really counts, and the minutes are actually a decimal version rounded to the nearest quarter or the nearest 0.25 so that it can be easily calculated by our computer systems. This spreadsheet does that for you. If you remember, the IXL hours and times are actually listed as hours and minutes. Well, this spreadsheet calculates the hours and minutes for you and makes sure that they actually add up to what they should be, rounded to the nearest quarter hour. So that's also very useful. What you're going to do is at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you're going to click on the tab that says IXL Student Quick View Week. And when you click on that, it's going to allow you to copy your information into a blank page on this spreadsheet. You're going to make sure the cell A1 is highlighted, so that's where everything's going to get copied to. And when you hit Control and the letter V, Control V is the paste function on your keyboard, and it is going to fill up this screen with all kinds of information, but only in column A. And if you see this, column A now looks crazy. It changes not only the format, but the layout of some of the cells. It has active links. It has blank spaces. It has all kinds of things. It even copies avatars if your students have chosen those. There's all kinds of stuff that's now been copied into this page, and it really doesn't help, and it makes this very complicated. And what I used to do is go through this, and it's hundreds of lines long at this point. I would go through this report, I would format everything correctly so my data team could actually read it and see what it was. And it would take sometimes 30 minutes or an hour to get all of the things just right. It would take a very long time, and I felt there had to be a better way to do it. So I created this spreadsheet that does it for us. So now I'm just going to click back on IXL Report, the other tab at the bottom of the screen. And when I do, you're going to be able to see the actual report laid out for you just like it would show up for you. Now, obviously, you don't see student names here. I've blurred them out for their protection. But what you do see is the numbers of questions that they have answered, as well as their times calculated to the nearest quarter hour, ready for your data team to input those times. So this is really, really helpful. It does all the work for you, and it gives you a nice presentation for your report so that everyone on your data team can easily see what's going on there. Another thing I wanted to show you, I mentioned earlier that I normally wouldn't include someone who's only done 1 or 2 minutes on IXL in that time period, and this is why. At the bottom of the report, you see several students who have 0 hours. That's because those students' time actually rounded down to 0. Anything below 8 minutes will round down to 0. So when you're selecting the students, our program doesn't count anything that would round to 0. We always round to the quarter hour. And so anything below 8 minutes would round to 0. We wouldn't include those on the report. The only reason I included them here is just so you would see what that looks like. And if that comes up on your report, you'll know why that's happening. It's because they have fewer than 8 minutes. Everyone else had at least 8 minutes or more, and that's why it rounded up to a quarter hour, a half hour, whatever it may have been. The only thing that you need to type on this report at all is the date range. Up at the top, it says week of, and then there's a yellow box. That's actually the only place that you're able to type on this screen because the report generates itself. And if you could type, you might accidentally delete one of the formulas or something like that. But that date range is the only thing you'll need to use. And not only is it formatted very nicely for you to look at, it's also formatted very nicely for you to print. And so when you click on print, this actually prints out. It's 7 pages long. Now I know that sounds like a lot. That holds 200 students. If you don't have 200 students, You obviously don't have to print all 7 pages. In fact, this report is actually just 2 pages long for me. I could go to a third page, but that third page is blank. So I don't need to print that. I only need to print pages 1 and 2 of this report, and that will have all of my students on it. So that's the only thing I would print for those, is just those first 2 pages. That would be it for me. So I hope that you will find this report as useful as our program does in calculating the IXL hours quickly and getting that data into our data system quickly as well. That helps our students get post-tested faster, it records their progress faster, and if you do have any sort of incentive programs, it gets that information in there as well. And most of all, it just helps you do your job a little bit easier. And I hope that all of my reports do that for you. And again, those reports can be found at mathwithmrward.club. Thank you all very much.